Right now, at your local big box store, there is a brand paying thousands of dollars just for the privilege of sitting on a dusty bottom shelf.
Oh, yeah.
And they are like absolutely thrilled about it. Today, we are looking at the ruthless, invisible math that dictates exactly what you are actually allowed to buy.
It's a completely hidden world for most consumers. You know, you walk into a store, you see an aisle of blenders or shampoo, and you just assume the store picked the best items.
Right, you assume it's like a meritocracy of good products.
Exactly. But the process behind those selections, it's a gauntlet known as the retail line review, and it's honestly one of the most high-stakes, cutthroat environments in modern business.
Which is exactly why we're doing this deep dive today.
Yeah.
We're pulling from some really incredible insights provided by Johan Jacob and the team at Retailbound.
Yeah, they're a fascinating group.
They are. They're a consultancy that has helped brands launch and scale across, I think, over 150 different retailers in the US and Canada.
Wow.
So essentially, they are the people who bridge the gap between a founder who invented something great and the giant retail machines that actually sell those things to millions of people.
Because creating a great product and selling that product at a massive retail scale, those require two entirely different, often conflicting skill sets.
Totally.
Like a brilliant inventor is rarely a brilliant supply chain logistics coordinator.
Yeah,
Right?
exactly.
Yeah.
So whether you are an entrepreneur dreaming of getting your product onto a major shelf or, you're just insanely curious about how the items in your cart beat out thousands of competitors to get there, today we are going to decode the hidden psychology of retail buyers.
And I think we have to start by completely dismantling the romantic idea of what a retail buyer actually does.
Okay, yeah, let's do that.
Because founders often walk into these conference rooms just brimming with passion. They've poured their life savings into a prototype.
Sure.
And they honestly believe they are there to prove their product is the coolest, most innovative thing in the world.
But the person sitting across the table with the spreadsheet doesn't care about cool at all.
Not even a little bit. I mean, retail buyers are not venture capitalists looking for a moonshot. And
No.
they aren't art critics looking for inspiration.
Right.
They are evaluated, and they get their bonuses based on maximizing the financial performance of their specific category footprint.
Okay, let's unpack this, because I always try to think of it like commercial real estate.
Ooh, yeah, that's a good way to look at it.
Right. Like the retailer is a landlord,
Sure.
and the shelf is the property. If you want your product sitting on that shelf, you are occupying high-rent physical space.
Exactly.
You have to pay the rent.
Yeah.
And you pay that rent through guaranteed high-margin sales. If your product sits there looking beautiful but not moving, you are basically a deadbeat tenant.
That analogy is the nail on the head because it explains the buyer's ultimate motivation, which is just risk aversion.
Okay.
In the current retail landscape, physical stores are constantly fighting Amazon for margin, right? So a buyer's job is heavily penalized for failure.
So if they take a chance on a cool new startup and it flops?
They still have to pay the warehouse overhead. They lose the revenue they would have generated from a safer brand.
Ouch.
And ultimately, they have to heavily discount that dead inventory just to clear the shelf.
So it's an active financial loss that hits their own personal performance metrics.
Exactly. So a brand's entire job in a line review isn't to be shiny or revolutionary. The entire pitch has to be an exercise in reducing the buyer's perceived risk.
You're walking in to prove that partnering with you is literally the safest, most logical decision they can make that day.
Yes. And that de-risking process, it begins with the physical product itself. Buyers evaluate if a product genuinely deserves a spot by looking for a defensible, unique selling proposition.
But wait, are they missing out on innovation by being so strict? Like, that doesn't mean inventing a whole new category.
No, we're talking about targeted differentiation.
Yeah.
If a retailer already has 14 brands of generic vanilla shampoo that sell predictably, right? Bringing them a 15th brand of vanilla shampoo, even if the ingredients are slightly cleaner, it doesn't solve a problem for them. It just cannibalizes the sales of the other 14.
So they just swap one sale for another. That doesn't help the buyer at all.
Right. They want incremental category growth. They want a product that brings a totally new customer into the aisle or solves a very specific friction point their current lineup just ignores.
Okay, and beyond the concept, the physical execution obviously has to be flawless, like quality standards, safety certifications, regulatory compliance.
That is all just table stakes. You don't even get the meeting if those aren't bulletproof.
Right. But let's assume you've nailed that. You have a genuinely brilliant, highly differentiated product. The quality is flawless. I know from reading the Retailbound material that the product itself is only half the battle, right?
Oh, yeah.
Like if the product is genuinely revolutionary and the quality is perfect, does the docs it comes in really matter that much?
Emphatically, yes. The source material actually calls packaging the silent salesperson.
The silent salesperson. I love that phrase.
And in a big box environment, that is a literal description. I mean, there is no store associate standing in the aisle explaining your genius feature set to someone walking by.
Right. The buyer knows that the physical box has to do 100% of the heavy lifting in like, what, 3 seconds?
Exactly.
I was actually thinking about this the other day. I bought a new kitchen gadget, and the box was this bizarre asymmetrical trapezoid shape.
Oh, no.
Yeah, it looked incredibly striking on my counter, but I remember thinking, some logistics manager must have absolutely hated this.
They despise it because while an asymmetrical box might look really cool and striking, it is a total nightmare for the planogram.
The planogram being the literal millimeter-perfect map of where every single item sits on a physical shelf.
Yeah, every half inch is accounted for. If your weird trapezoid box means a retailer can only fit 8 units on a shelf where they normally fit 12 rectangular boxes.
Oh, wow.
You have just slashed the revenue potential of that shelf space by a third. The buyer will reject the product purely based on shelf inefficiency.
Just because of the shape of the box. And it goes beyond just sitting on the shelf, right? You're shipping air.
Yes, exactly.
If the box doesn't tessellate perfectly on a standard wooden pallet, you're basically paying freight costs to move empty space across the ocean.
Yep. Which destroys your unit economics before the product even reaches the back room of the store. And on top of that, it needs retail-ready durability.
Like, it can't get crushed in transit.
Exactly. If a pallet gets jostled and the corners of your beautiful foil-stamped boxes get crushed, physical shoppers won't buy them.
No, I always reach behind the crushed one to grab the pristine one. I do that all the time.
We all do. So the damaged inventory becomes shrink, which is a total loss for the retailer. The silent salesperson basically has to be a tank.
Okay, so the product is great. The box is a perfectly optimized, indestructible rectangle that communicates value in 3 seconds. The buyer nods, but now the temperature in the room drops because you have to talk about the math, the financials, and the pricing strategy.
And this is usually where passionate founders hit a massive brick wall. They calculate their manufacturing costs, they add a little profit for themselves, and they just assume the retailer will happily slap it on the shelf.
See, I think of this dynamic like building a highway. The retailer is providing the paved road, the massive physical infrastructure that gives you access to millions of driving customers.
Right.
But you, the brand, you have to pay for all the billboards and the gas to get the cars moving down your specific lane. You can't just drop off your inventory and expect the retailer to do the marketing.
Not at all. Retailers demand partners, not just suppliers. The financial expectation is that the brand allocates serious marketing dollars specifically tailored to drive foot traffic into that retailer's physical doors.
So we're talking about funding in-store end cap displays, paying for those weekend demo stations, and running targeted, like geo-fenced digital ads.
Geofencing is a huge one today. Brands will run social media ads that only trigger when a user's phone pings within a 2-mile radius of the specific big box store.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, explicitly telling them, hey, the product is right here in aisle 4. That takes a massive budget, which completely changes the margin structure.
And the margin squeeze is intense. Every category has a strict profit margin the retailer mandates.
Oh, absolutely. If they expect a 40% margin on blenders, you have to hit that number. But you also can't just arbitrarily hike up the retail price to make the math work.
Right, because the MSRP has to align with what the consumer actually expects to pay.
What's fascinating here is you are caught in a vice. You've got the retailer's non-negotiable margin demand on one side, your own manufacturing costs, and the consumer's price ceiling.
And compounding all of that is the absolute necessity of MAP enforcement.
Yes. MAP, minimum advertised price.
Let's really dig into this because the sources emphasize this so heavily. Why is MAP such a sensitive trigger point for a retail buyer?
Because buyers are terrified of showrooming.
Showrooming.
Yeah, imagine a major store takes a chance on you. They give you the shelf space, they run your end cap. A customer walks in, physically handles your product, decides they love it, but then pulls out their phone.
Oh, I know where this is going.
They search your brand and see that you are selling the exact same item on your own direct-to-consumer website for 20% less.
So the retailer just paid all the overhead to acquire a customer for you, and you undercut them.
The physical store just became a free, interactive billboard for your website. Buyers will drop a brand instantly if they suspect pricing integrity won't be maintained across all channels.
That makes total sense. So a strict MAP policy is basically a legal agreement ensuring that no one, not other retailers, not third-party Amazon sellers, and certainly not the brand itself, can advertise the product below a specific floor.
Exactly. You are protecting the landlord's ability to collect the rent, going back to your analogy.
Okay, so the margins work, the pricing is locked down, the product is flawless. But we still haven't touched the biggest risk factor of all.
Operational readiness, the
Yeah.
dreaded supply chain reality check.
Right. So let's assume a brand has done everything right so far. But this creates a massive logical paradox for me.
How so?
Well, a retail buyer's whole job is to avoid risk, so they want concrete proof of demand before they buy. But how is an unproven, emerging brand supposed to bring proof of demand to a major retailer if they aren't actually allowed into major retail stores yet?
It's the ultimate catch-22.
Yeah, it's like, we won't stock you until you prove you can sell, but you can't sell until we stock you.
10 or 15 years ago, breaking that paradox required massive venture capital just to force your way in.
Right.
But today, the playbook has completely changed. Brands are practically required to build deep momentum outside of traditional wholesale first.
Okay, so they use the internet as their proving ground.
Exactly. Direct-to-consumer channels,
Yeah.
aggressive Amazon growth, or dominating a network of small, independent boutique shops. Strong, sustained, verifiable sales data from those platforms acts as the social proof.
You literally bring your Shopify dashboard to the meeting to prove the dog eats the dog food.
You do, but there is a huge caveat here.
Okay.
A massive following on TikTok or huge DTC sales doesn't automatically mean a big box buyer will care. The demographics have to align perfectly.
Oh, right, because if you're selling 100,000 units a month to Gen Z through Instagram, but the retailer's primary foot traffic consists of suburban homeowners in their 50s.
Then your DTC data actually highlights a risk. It proves your product resonates with an audience that simply doesn't walk through the buyer's doors. The brand identity has to completely mirror the retailer's shopper profile.
Okay, and even if the audiences perfectly overlap, we arrive at the absolute most unsexy yet most critical part of the entire line review: fulfillment. The logistics of the supply chain.
It is the silent killer of emerging brands. Big box retailers run on hyper-optimized supply chains. They issue purchase orders or POs with draconian delivery windows.
Right.
They measure something called OTIF, which stands for on time in full.
I've heard horror stories about OTIF. It's not just a polite request to deliver the goods.
Oh, it is a strict contractual obligation. If a retailer orders 10,000 units to be delivered on a Tuesday between 1:00 p.m. and 3:00 p.m., and your truck arrives on Wednesday?
Or it arrives on time but only has like 9,000 units.
Exactly. You don't just get a stern email, you get hit with massive chargebacks.
Literally financial penalties deducted straight from your invoice.
Substantial penalties. Because to the retailer, a late shipment means an empty shelf. And an empty shelf is real estate generating zero revenue while simultaneously frustrating the consumer who drove there specifically to buy it.
So if you have frequent out of stocks,
The buyer will simply pull your shelf tag and replace you with a legacy corporate brand that actually knows how to run a logistics network.
man, that puts an incredible amount of pressure on a founder during a pitch. You aren't just saying, look at my cool gadget.
No.
You are promising, under threat of financial penalty, that your overseas factory, your freight forwarders, and your domestic warehouses will operate with military precision.
Which is exactly why data, not emotion, is the only currency that matters in a line review. You are walking in to present a bulletproof, data-driven business case.
So let's actually put ourselves in the room. The pitch deck has to be incredibly concise, right?
Oh, definitely.
Like, it cannot be 50 slides about your founder journey or how much you love the environment.
Yeah.
It has to be ruthlessly focused on the retailer's category mix.
And you show up with production quality samples. No 3D printed prototypes held together with duct tape.
Right, none of that.
If the final packaging isn't off the line yet, you bring high-end mock-ups that perfectly simulate the retail weight and finish. You have to demonstrate professionalism at every single touch point.
And here's where it gets really interesting. The part of the Retailbound insights that I found the most fascinating: the buyers will actually actively test you.
They will.
They will throw out specific, challenging objections just to see if you actually understand their business, or if you're just reciting a rehearsed marketing script.
They are probing for weaknesses, They want to see how you handle pressure before they tie their own category performance to your company.
So let's run through the big three objections. You're in the pitch, the buyer leans back, crosses their arms, and says, look, we already carry 3 very similar products in this category. What is the play there?
Well, the worst thing you can do is argue that your product is just better. Quality is totally subjective. Instead, you immediately pivot the conversation to incremental category growth.
You show them the math.
You show them proprietary data proving that your product attracts a fundamentally different shopper. You explain that stocking your brand won't just steal sales from the 3 existing products, but will actually expand the total revenue of the aisle.
Because you're capturing a demographic they are currently ignoring. You grow the pie. You don't just slice it differently. Love that. Okay, objection number 2. The buyer says, the packaging is nice, but your price point is just way too high for our shelves. Our customers simply won't pay a premium.
You counter that by reinforcing your value proposition with outside validation. This is exactly where your Amazon data or DTC metrics become a weapon.
Ah, right.
You prove that consumers are actively choosing to pay that premium price right now in the open market because the perceived value of your component quality justifies it.
So you prove the price isn't a barrier, it's actually a feature of premium positioning.
Yes.
Okay, here is the absolute toughest one, the buyer size. They close their notebook and say, I love the product, the margins make sense, but we are under a strict corporate freeze. We're not onboarding any new vendors this year. The roster is full.
Ouch. Yeah. The standard strategic counter here is to immediately suggest a limited test or a pilot program.
But let me challenge that for a second. If I've spent 2 years building a company and I walk in hoping for a massive 1,000-store national rollout, asking for a pilot program feels like a desperate retreat.
It does.
It feels like saying, fine, you won't give me the country. Just give me 15 stores in the Midwest. It just feels like begging for scraps.
I mean, it absolutely feels that way to the founder's ego. But if we connect this to the bigger picture, you have to view this through the lens of the buyer's psychology. Reframing the pitch as a localized pilot program isn't a retreat. It is a Trojan horse.
Okay, wait, how so?
Remember, the buyer's primary driver is fear of risk. A national rollout of an unproven brand is a massive risk. But a 50-store pilot in a single region, that is a rounding error on their spreadsheet.
Ah, I see.
It costs them virtually nothing in logistical overhead to test you. It completely neutralizes their risk.
You're literally removing their only valid reason to say no.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You shift the burden of proof entirely onto your own shoulders, but in a highly controlled environment. If you get those 50 stores, you pour all your marketing, geofencing, and demo budget into those specific zip codes.
You just artificially spike the sell-through.
You do, and when you succeed, you now have the holy grail of retail negotiations.
Proprietary point-of-sale data from their own cash registers.
Yes. You walk into the follow-up meeting 6 months later, and you don't have to point to your Shopify dashboard anymore. You point to their internal metrics. You prove you are a winner in their ecosystem.
And at that point, the national rollout becomes inevitable because the risk has been reduced to absolute zero.
Right.
You use their own risk aversion as the lever to get through the door. That is brilliant strategy.
It's just understanding the rules of the game so deeply that you can engineer a win.
So what does this all mean? When you lay it out like this, the real estate of the planogram, the tension between margins and MAP, the logistical tightrope of ODIF supply chains, and just neutralizing risk it, completely reframes what a line review is.
It really does.
You aren't actually selling a physical product.
No, you really aren't.
You are selling a business partnership. You walk into that conference room as a risky, unknown startup. But if you hit these criteria, you walk out presenting yourself as a highly profitable, operationally flawless extension of their own business. You are essentially selling them a stress-free quarter.
And honestly, that is the only thing a buyer truly wants to buy.
It is a masterful system.
Yeah.
But looking at how hyper-optimized and risk-averse this entire gauntlet has become, it really makes you wonder about the future of physical shopping, you know?
It does raise a fascinating and maybe slightly concerning question about discovery. We've just spent a long time discussing how retail buyers increasingly demand massive external proof of demand before they take a risk.
Right.
They rely on past sales data, Amazon search volume, and proven DTC engagement just to decide what gets a spot on the physical shelf.
So they are essentially looking backward to predict the future.
Precisely. If major physical retailers will only stock what has already proven itself online, are physical stores destined to stop being places of actual discovery? If the shelf only reflects what the internet's algorithms have already deemed popular, big box stores just become physical manifestations of our digital echo chambers.
Oh, that is a wild thought. The serendipity of wandering down an aisle and finding something genuinely weird, totally unproven, and just out of nowhere, that might be disappearing from retail entirely because the math just doesn't allow for it.
It is the ultimate trade-off. We get maximum efficiency, guaranteed margins, and perfect supply chains, but we sacrifice the messy, risky magic of true retail serendipity.
It fundamentally changes how you view a trip to the store.
Yeah.
The next time you grab a product off a shelf, take a second to look at the cardboard box. Think about the perfectly tessellated pallets, the geo-fenced marketing dollars, the ruthless margin negotiations, and the sheer operational willpower it took for that specific item to survive the gauntlet and win that tiny square of high-rent real estate.
Yep.
It did not get there by accident. It fought a war to be in your hands. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive, and we'll catch you next time.